The Mouth That Summoned Death, the tragic folktale of Siroga of Buganda. In the rolling lands of Masaka County, deep within the ancient heart of the Buganda Kingdom, there once lived a man named Siroga. Siroga was not born into greatness, nor was he born into misfortune. He was born into balance, the kind of quiet, hard-working life that many men prayed for, but few truly kept. By day he was a hunter, skilled with spear and bow, known for tracking game through tangled bush and whispering forest paths. By season he was also a subsistence farmer, tilling the land with calloused hands so his household would never sleep hungry. At home waited his wife, a woman of patience and endurance, and two children, still young enough to believe their father could conquer anything with his bare hands. Their homestead was modest, but it was stable, roof intact, hearth warm, laughter sometimes rising with the evening smoke. By all measures, Siroga had what many men lacked, and yet Siroga carried a curse, not on his body but on his tongue. He was a kind man, yes. He helped neighbors, shared meat when the hunt was good, and greeted elders with respect. But Siroga had no fence around his mouth. Secrets passed through him like wind through tall grass. What was whispered in confidence by night was repeated in laughter by morning. He knew everything, who lay with whom, whose marriage was cracking, which chief kept a mistress hidden in another village. And worse still, Siroga could not keep it to himself. At the beer stalls where men gathered to drink banana brew and loosen their spirits, Siroga's voice was always the loudest. Stories that should have died in the dark were resurrected by his careless laughter. Time and again, men discovered that the things they had confessed among hunters about their sexual escapades, illicit affairs, and hidden shame had somehow found their way to Siroga's wife, and from there, into the mouths of village women. Mockery followed. Ridicule spread. Homes burned with quarrels sparked by words Siroga had released into the world and never bothered to retrieve. Before long, the hunting groups had forsaken him. "Your mouth hunts better than your spear," they told him. "You are dangerous, not to animals, but to men." So Siroga became what few hunters ever were, a lone hunter. One morning before the sun had fully climbed the sky, Siroga prepared for the hunt. His dogs padded around him, tails low but alert. He gathered his nets, slung his spears, checked the straightness of his arrows, and tied his bow across his shoulder. Without ceremony and without companions, he set off toward the Mpanga Forest, a vast equatorial rainforest in Mpigi, ancient and thick with secrets older than kingdoms. Mpanga was not a forest for careless men. Its canopy swallowed light, its roots twisted like serpents. Even the air felt heavy, as though it carried memories of all who had passed through and never returned. At first, Siroga walked with confidence. He had hunted alone before. But as he advanced deeper into the forest, something changed. A fear crept into him, slow, unfamiliar, unwelcome. The birds grew silent, his dogs slowed, a chill brushed his spine, though the sun was already warm above the canopy. Siroga felt it then, the undeniable sense that he was not alone. He shook his head. "Fear," he muttered. "It is only fear." But fear did not explain the way his heart pounded, nor the way the forest seemed to lean inward, listening. Then as he rounded a massive movile tree, its roots thick and ancient, like the knuckles of the earth itself, Siroga stopped dead. Before him lay a pile of human bones. A skull rested beside them, empty sockets staring into nothingness. The bones were faded, scarred, worn smooth by rain and time. Moss clung to them gently, as though the forest itself had been trying, unsuccessfully, to bury what it could not claim. For a long moment, Siroga did not breathe. He stepped closer, squinting against the overhead sun. Up close, he could see it clearly now. A complete human structure, abandoned, forgotten. Questions flooded his mind. Who was this man? How had he come to die here? And how could a soul be left to rot in the forest, denied the dignity of burial on ancestral land? Siroga dropped to one knee, and in that moment, everything he had felt earlier, the chill, the presence, made sense. The spirit of this man was not at rest. In the ways of his people, Siroga knew the truth. A soul denied proper burial wanders, and a wandering spirit does not wander quietly. He knew he had no right to touch the bones. That duty belonged to the village sorcerer, the one who appeased spirits and returned them home. Siroga resolved to go to the Kabaka, seek permission, and bring the sorcerer back. He turned to leave. That was when the forest spoke. "Don't you want to know how I died?" For a long, terrible moment after the voice spoke, Siroga did not move. His breath caught in his chest, shallow and uneven. Sweat broke. Sweat broke across his brow, though the forest air was cool beneath a thick canopy. His muscles tightened as if preparing to flee, yet his feet felt rooted to the soil, as though the forest itself had claimed him. "Don't you want to know how I died?" The words did not echo. They did not fade. They sat in the air, calm, deliberate, alive. Siroga swallowed hard. Was that inside my head? He wondered. But deep within himself, he already knew the answer. The forest had a way of telling truth without words, and this truth pressed against his spirit like a hand on his chest. Before he could take another step, the voice returned. Closer now, softer, almost gentle. "I need to tell you how I died," it said. "So you can tell the village sorcerer, so you can tell my family, so my death can be avenged." Siroga's legs trembled. His dogs whimpered low, tails tucked, refusing to look at the bones. "You have to help me." There was something in the tone, something weary, something pleading that pierced Siroga's fear. Against every instinct that screamed for him to run, he turned back. The bones lay exactly as before, still, silent, lifeless. Yet the voice continued, rising not from the skull, but from everywhere at once. From the soil, from the roots of the muvale tree, from the air itself. The spirit spoke of betrayal. It told him of a man, a brother, not by blood but by trust, who had lured him into the forest under the pretense of friendship. A hunting trip, they had said, a shared path, shared meat, shared laughter. Instead, there had been a blade in the dark. The spirit did not scream. It did not rage. It spoke with the exhaustion of one who had waited too long. "All I need, it said, is for the sorcerer to come. I will name those who did this to me. I was influential in life. My family will reward you." At those words, something dangerous stirred in Siroga. Not fear, but imagination. He saw himself no longer bent over small gardens, but commanding vast fields of crops. He saw himself laying down his spear, abandoning lonely hunts, returning home with wealth instead of blood. He saw his wife dressed in fine cloth, no longer whispered about by village women who mocked her for marrying a man with a reckless tongue. He imagined the beer stalls. This time, it was him who would arrive with gourds overflowing, who would buy brew for the entire town. He imagined men singing songs of praise, voices raised not in mockery but admiration. He was tired of being laughed at, tired of being dismissed, tired of being remembered only for his mouth. This could change everything. The bones urged him to hurry. "Go now," the spirit said. "Bring the sorcerer. When you return, I will tell everything." Siroga did not hesitate again. He ran. Through tangled undergrowth, past roots and vines, his dogs straining to keep pace. He did not stop to hunt. He did not stop to think. The forest released him reluctantly, as though watching to see whether he would ever return. By the time Siroga reached the palace, his chest burned and his legs shook, but urgency carried him forward. The Bamboa, the king's guards, crossed their spears before him. "The Kabaka is busy," they said. "This cannot wait," Siroga replied, breathless. "Not even for the king." Such words would have earned another man a beating, but there was something in Siroga's voice, panic mixed with conviction, that caused the guards to exchange glances. The Mutaka, the king's chief overseer, was summoned. After listening, his face hardened. "This matter," he said slowly, "will be taken to the Kabaka." Siroga was ushered before Kabaka Mwanga. The king sat elevated, power wrapped around him like a second skin. His eyes were sharp, unblinking, accustomed to fear. Around him stood chiefs and kingsmen, men who had watched life end at a gesture from his hand. Siroga spoke. He told them of Mpanga Forest, of the bones, of the voice. The court fell into stunned silence. "Speaking skulls," one murmured. "Madness," whispered another. Yet the king did not laugh. Instead, his face darkened. "Summon the sorcerer," Kabaka Mwanga commanded. "We must go at once." They moved as a procession. King, sorcerer, guards, chiefs, and villagers who had caught wind of the mystery and followed like fire chasing dry grass. Siroga led them deep into Mpanga Forest. When they reached the place beneath the muvule tree, the bones lay there exactly as before. Cold, ordinary, silent. Siroga's confidence surged. "These are the bones," he said. "They spoke to me here." The king gestured sharply. "Tell them to speak again." Siroga stepped forward, voice loud, almost proud. "Kawanga, Yogara!" "Spirit, speak." Nothing. He laughed nervously and tried again. "Skull bones, speak to me again, as you promised." Silence. Not even the birds stirred. Not even the wind breathed. The silence pressed against them until it became unbearable. Siroga's heart began to race. "Please," he whispered now. "Speak." Nothing. He fell to his knees. "Do not do this to me," he begged the bones. "If you stay silent, I will die." The sorcerer watched carefully. The king's jaw tightened. Minutes stretched like years. At last, Kabaka Mwanga stood. "This man," he said coldly, "has made a fool of his king." The Bamboa seized Siroga. The journey back to the palace felt endless. Whispers followed him like insects. Some pitied him. Many rejoiced. They were tired of Siroga's mouth. As they entered the palace grounds, Siroga saw his wife. She clutched their children, tears streaking her face. But it was not her tears that broke him. It was her eyes. Disappointment, exhaustion, a pain that said, "You have finally destroyed us." Siroga collapsed, begging for mercy. Kabaka Mwanga did not blink. "I am a king," he said, rising in fury. "No one humiliates me. No one toys with my people." He turned away. "Take him to the beheading chamber." The chants began. "Kill him! Kill him!" Only his wife's sobs cut through the noise. Siroga never reached the chamber alive in spirit. Fear killed him piece by piece before the blade ever touched his neck. By sunset, his head lay separated from his body. The moral of the story is that Siroga's mouth had carried him far. It carried secrets that were not his. It carried dreams that were too loud. And in the end, it carried him to death. They say Mpanga Forest still listens. And they say, if you speak too freely, even the bones may hear you.